widened. "If you're going to be in town for a while, maybe you could come by my place for a visit. I'll show you around, teach you how to rope and ride." Jenny was flattered, but not all that interested. "I'll be working, I think. My aunt and uncle own a ranch here." "Yeah? Who are they?" "I know most of the ranchers in the area." "Jeff and Maggie Whitecloud. Aunt Maggie is my mom's sister." Marty's eyes turned cold. "You seem like a nice girl, Jenny, so I'm going to give you a little advice. When we land, you go to the ticket agent and tell them you want the next flight out of here." "I don't understand. Why?" "Jeff Whitecloud and his family's been nothing but trouble since they showed up out at Dancing Waters less than a year ago. You hang around out there and you're liable to get hurt." His advice surprised her, and she wasn't sure how to respond. "Is that a threat?" "Nothing personal. Just that some folks around here aren't too friendly toward Indian lovers." Jenny ignored the racist remark, hoping he'd answer some of her questions. "Do you know anything about the explosion at the ranch?" Marty frowned. "Nope. I told you, I've been gone. The explosion killed the ranch foreman and injured my uncle. He's still in the hospital." "Rick Jenkins?" He whistled. "That's too bad. Can't say I'm too surprised, though. What does surprise me is that your uncle is still alive." Marty slumped in his seat and stared straight ahead, a frown etching deep lines in his brow. Jenny thought he seemed more shaken by the news than he'd admitted. As they landed, the prop plane, a 37-passenger Dornier, bounced a couple of times, then shuddered to a slow roll as the pilot brought it in. Right on time. 12:30. Marty retrieved his carry-on, slapped the hat over his ash-brown hair, then walked in front of her until they were inside the airport. He was tall, over 6 feet, and the hat and boots gave him even more height. He spun around to face her. The coldness in his eyes had turned to concern. "I meant what I said, Jenny. Jeff Whitecloud's got more enemies in the Bitterroot Valley than a killer mountain lion. If you're smart, you'll go back to Portland and forget about helping him." Marty's warning hadn't exactly scared her, but he had stirred up her interest. Maybe her intuition was onto something after all. She'd suspected foul play from the moment she heard about the so-called accident. Marty could be holding the key to a murder, and Jenny didn't intend to walk away. "Guess I'm not too smart." Marty gazed at her for a moment, then sighed. "Sorry to hear that." He spun around and walked off. Jenny watched him go. Excitement shivered through her. At the same time, a band of fear tightened around her throat. "You're not here to solve a mystery, McGrady," she reminded herself. "You're here to work, and there is nothing to be afraid of. At least not yet." Jenny glanced around the terminal, looking for the face she'd memorized from the photo Aunt Maggie had sent. "Heather will be at the airport to pick you up. Maggie had assured her on the phone last night. I'll send her in plenty of time to meet your plane." Jenny scanned the crowd, but saw no one even resembling the girl in the picture. Heather Whitecloud was half Irish and half Nez Perce Indian. With her coal-black hair and wide, dark eyes, she looked like a model. 15 minutes later, Jenny slipped on her black leather backpack and scooped up her duffel bag, then headed toward the baggage claim area. Maybe her cousin would be waiting there. She wasn't. Jenny retrieved her bags off the conveyor belt, set them on a luggage cart, then settled into a chair near the door where she could watch for Heather. A few minutes later, she jumped up and paced, angry one minute and worried the next. Though she fought against it, the conversation she'd had with Marty niggled its way into her guarded thoughts. Jeff Whitecloud had enemies. The explosion had killed one man and sent her uncle to the hospital. Could something have happened to Heather, too? Jenny had Heather paged. No one responded. Another half-hour passed, and Jenny decided she'd better call the ranch. She groped inside her backpack for Aunt Maggie's letter. Since she'd left her emergency-only cell phone at home instead of packing it as she'd intended, she went in search of a payphone. She'd located a payphone and was about to dial the number when she caught a glimpse of her cousin in the baggage claim area. Jenny started to wave, then stopped. Heather apparently had more important things on her mind than picking up a relative. She was even more gorgeous in person than in the photograph. Her straight black hair reached the small of her back. A barrette of feathers and a dream catcher adorned one side. Her tan skin contrasted with her